Alex, I've heard you tell me many times that tracking is not a mystical, magical process, that in fact master trackers follow a system that is very logical in its nature.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about that? Where does it start? Where does the tracking process start?
It has to start with finding the track, getting out there, getting active, getting into the best areas of opportunity where animals are moving, and go and spend time trying to find the right track, the freshest track that you've got the best chances of success with. So finding the track has to be the first
So
step.
you have to get out there. It's not a passive thing. You can't do it on your armchair. You've got to get out into the field, onto the ground.
Absolutely.
And then what happens next? Once you've found the track, well, what's the next step in the process?
Yeah, so the next step is you start to follow. You follow that animal's trail of evidence, its footprints, and we call that trailing. And you have to, as that animal moves through the landscape, it throws up new types of evidence, and so you've got to know what you're following. So a lion that walks in nice, beautiful, clear sand, the track looks different to if it's walking on stony ground. So you have to now start to interpret the evidence as you move through the trail. So the whole idea is to start to analyze and understand the broader context that you're operating. So the whole idea of interpreting the evidence is certainly the next phase.
So from the tracker's point of view, you have to have a great technical ability to know what's happening in front of you, what's unfolding in front of you, and you've got to know what to follow in the first place.
Yes, exactly right. And you've got to know that, and that evidence is changing depending on the environment you're in. Clear sand, you're seeing a certain type of evidence, and in grass, another type. And so the tracker has to adapt to seeing and interpreting the evidence correctly.
But this is complex because there are a whole lot of signs that you're looking at. It's not just the animal. There's a whole bunch of things going on at the same time. So you have to extract what you're seeing and elevate that. And identify that from everything in order to follow and trail it successfully.
Yes, and if you're following a lion, not only are there other animals, but there are other lions. So you've got to make sure you are your lion, the freshest lion, because it may be territorial and there are other lions in the area. So you have to have the ability, technical ability, to age the track carefully and correctly.
Right. Okay, so step one is to get out there and to find it in the first place. Step two is that you've got to know what you're looking at.
Correct.
You've got to have a technical ability to interpret what you're seeing in order to decide whether to follow it or not.
Yes, exactly right.
And then what happens next after that?
So now you can never outwalk a lion. So at some point you've got to find ways to get ahead, to kind of leapfrog ahead. If you follow a lion track from last night, he's got 6 or 8 hours on you. You've got to find creative, innovative ways to get ahead and close the gap on that animal.
And I guess you've got to also understand the environment around you. What's coming up ahead. You've got to understand the animal behavior. You've got to be tuned into other environmental factors like is a monkey calling, is a bird alarming. So there's a whole lot of signals that you must also be tuned into that'll help you close the gap.
Yes, exactly. The three factors that help you close the gap are knowing the animal's behavior, knowing what the evidence is saying, and knowing how the landscape, the environment, having an effect on that animal's movement. I'll give you an example. If you're following a black rhino in the middle of the day, he's been feeding, and there's water up ahead, there's a very good chance he's going to go and have a drink. So in that case, you can leave behind his tracks and go straight to the water and try and pick up a fresher trail right up ahead.
So it's speculative. I mean, you've got to be creative in that. You've got to understand the environment around you, have a knowledge of the animal's behavior, but also the way the environment is unfolding so that you can make these speculative jumps.
Yes,
ahead.
exactly. It's linking the evidence, the animal's behavior with the environment. It's the three factors.
So the first step is find the track. The second is interpret the trail. The third is close the gap, which where you're trying to speed up. Do you ever get lost in this process?
Yeah, you always get lost. Even master trackers lose the trail.
What do you do then when you lose the trail?
So there are two basic ways of either you go back to your last confirmed piece of evidence and you follow again until you get through the difficult patch of substrate where you can follow easier again, or you engage in that process of closing the gap. You say, I don't know where the tracks are, but I've got a good sense of where the animal was heading, and I'm going to anticipate, I'm going to predict and go ahead and see if I can find a track further up.
So step one is to get out there, to get into the field. Step two is to analyze the trail. Step three is to close the gap. Step four is figure out how to get back on track if you're lost. Do you ever find the animal at the end of all of this?
Yes.
Is that the fifth?
Yes, that we call the encounter. And the encounter is important because you want to find that animal without it knowing you were ever there. You don't want to change its behavior. You don't want to impact on it. Trackers are immersed in the environment. They're not against the animals. They work in partnership with the environment. And so you want to find that animal and spend time with it and build a relationship with it. And because if the encounter goes badly, the rhino may charge and knock you over, or it may run away. Both are not good outcomes, and that's not good for relationship building. You want that encounter to happen again on the next tracking mission that you go on.
So when it comes to tracking, success means that you get out there and you find the track, you interpret the trail correctly, you close the gap effectively. When you get lost, you get back on track, and ultimately you have an encounter with the animal in such a way that it doesn't know that you're there, and you maintain and sustain the relationship with the animal. Is that what success means when it comes to tracking?
Absolutely, Grant. That's it. That's the process of tracking.